490 Petrus Mongus, Patriarch of Alexandria, dies. In 1038 Ethelnoth, English Archbishop of Canterbury. In 1268 Conradin, last Duke of Swabia 1254-68, and son of Conrad Roman IV of Germany, captured and beheaded in Naples at 16. In 1268 Frederick I, Margrave of Baden beheaded b. 1249. In 1321 Stephanus VI Euros Roman II Milutin, King of Serbia 1282-1321, dies. In 1590 Dirck Volkertsz Coornhert, Dutch philosopher, poet and engraver, dies at about 68. In 1650 David Calderwood, Scottish historian b. 1575. In 1666 Edmund Calamy the Elder, English Presbyterian leader b. 1600. In 1666 James Shirley, English poet and dramatist The Triumph of Peace, dies at 70. Date of burial. In 1677 Charles Coypeau Dassoucy, French poet and singer, dies at 72. In 1790 Pieter van Bleiswijk, Grand Pensionary of Holland 1771-87, dies at about 66. In 1802 Jacques-Philippe Lamoninary, French composer, dies at 95. In 1804 George Morland, English artist of rural landscapes, dies at 41. In 1822 Dirk van Hogendorp, Dutch military man, politician, and colonial administrator, Lieutenant Governor of East Java, 1974-98, Minister of War, 1806-07, dies at 61. In 1824 Charles Pinckney, American founding father, planter, and governor of South Carolina 1789-92, 1796-98, 1806-08, dies at 67. In 1829 Maria Anna Mozart, Austrian pianist and Wolfgang's sister, dies at 78. In 1846 Jean Louis van Aelbroeck, Flemish agronomist, dies at 90. In 1853 Pierre-Joseph-Guillaume Zimmermann, French pianist, music teacher, and composer, dies at 68. In 1853 William Richard Bexfield, English composer, dies at 29. In 1856 Kelseritus Willem van Hogendorp, Dutch administrator acting Governor General of the Dutch East Indies, 1840-41, dies at 68. In 1873 Ernest Feydeau, French author Fanny, dies at 52. In 1873 John of Saxony, King of Saxony 1854-73, dies at 71. In 1873 Leonardus Lightenvelt, Dutch politician, dies at 78. In 1876 Jacques Gregoir, Belgian composer and pianist, dies at 59. American slave trader, Confederate Lieutenant General, and KKK Grand Wizard, dies of complications from diabetes at 56. In 1879 Matthew Duncan Ector, American jurist and Confederate general in the Atlanta campaign, dies at 57. In 1882 Gustav Nottebohm, German teacher and composer, dies at 64. In 1883 Robert Volkmann, German composer and pedagogue, dies at 68. In 1885 James Hannington, English missionary, murdered in Uganda. In 1885 Joseph Finegan, American businessman and Brigadier General in the Confederate Army Battle of Olustee, dies at 71. In 1892 William Hannett, Irish-American painter Old Cupboard Door, dies at 44. In 1897 Henry George, American politician, economist and land reformer, Progress Poverty, dies after a stroke at 58. In 1901 Leon Czolgosz, American anarchist and assassin of President McKinley, is electrocuted after being sentenced to death at 28. 1905 Tyne Dismarto, Canadian athlete, Olympic gold 56 lb weight throw 1904, dies of typhoid fever at 32. In 1905 Hendrik Witbooi, Narmer chief modern Namibia who resisted German colonial control, pioneered ideas of Pan-Africanism, dies fighting Born c. 1835. Hungarian-American publisher St. Louis Post-Dispatch, NY World, and Democratic politician, whose bequest founded the Columbia School of Journalism and the Pulitzer Prize, dies at 64. In 1919 A. B. Simpson, Canadian preacher B. 1843. In 1919 Son Sharkey, Zen abbot of Ngakiji Monastery in Kamakura, dies at 60. In 1920 Ernst Barabo, German-American composer and pianist, dies at 74. In 1922 Georg August Lamby, Danish composer and conductor Tivoli Concert Hall Orchestra, 1891-97, dies at 79. British-American playwright and children's author The Secret Garden, Little Lord Fauntleroy, dies at 74. In 1924 Peter Vergin, Russian Daugavpir leader led Daugavpir community in Canada, dies, possibly assassinated in an explosion on a train at 65-1. In 1927 Leonard Nelson, German philosopher Nelson Frischul, dies at 45. In 1931 Luciano Gallat, Brazilian pianist, composer, conductor, and educator, dies at 38. In 1932 Joseph Babinski, Polish-French neurologist Babinski reflex, dies at 74. In 1933 Albert Carmet, French physician, bacteriologist and immunologist Basilis Carmet Guerin, dies at 70. In 1933 Paul Painlevé, French Prime Minister 1917-1925, dies at 69. In 1934 Gustavo Camper, Mexican composer, dies at 71. In 1936 Ramiro Dionisio Spanish writer Don Quixote Celestine, dies at 61. In 1939 Dwight B. Waldo, American educator first president of Western Michigan University, dies at 75. In 1941 Harvey Hendrick, American baseball player B. 1897. In 1945 Hans Erich Bleich Dr. Auglas, German writer Simplicissimus, dies at 72. In 1947 Frances Cleveland, American First Lady 1885-8993-97, wife of Grover Cleveland, dies at 83. In 1947 Theodore Holland, British composer, dies at 69. In 1949 George Gurdjieff, Armenian Greek mystic who established the Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man, dies at about 82. In 1950 Gustav V, King of Sweden 1907-1950, dies at 92. In 1951 Jean de Raymond, French High Director of Cambodia, assassinated by a Viet Minh agent B. 1907. In 1951 Robert Grant Aitken, American astronomer, New General Catalogue, dies at 86. In 1953 William Capel, American concert pianist and recording artist, dies in a plane crash at 31. American film producer and creator of the star system MGM, dies at 71. In 1957 Rosemary Nightribit, German call girl, strangled in her apartment in an unsolved murder at 24. In 1958 Zoe Akins, American playwright, Pulitzer Prize for drama 1935, dies at 71. In 1961 Guthrie McClintock, American Broadway producer and director Winterset, dies at 68. In 1962 Siegfried Salmon, Danish composer, dies at 77. In 1963 Adolf Menjou, American actor, front page, Star is Born, dies at 73. In 1963 Michael Holiday Norman Milne, British pop singer, The Story of My Life, dies of a suspected drug overdose at 38. In 1965 Bill McKechnie, American baseball HOF manager,